Welcome to Liability Island. Love Island is a smash hit with Gen Z viewers, which is funny because the OG millennial viewers who binged the original UK versions during the pandemic know that the current versions are mere shades of the original 2 seasons.
He asked her to be his girlfriend a few days ago and now he's cracking on with someone else behind her back. Head.
No, he's bloody brave for doing it.
And there is a very good legal reason for this. Basically, the producers figured out that giving unlimited drinks to the dumbest people from Essex is a recipe for disaster.
We're leaving the European Union. So does that mean we won't have any cheese?
Which is why all contestants are now limited to 2 drinks. Yes, believe it or not, they're all acting like this sober. Now, we'll talk about that more in a second, but that's just one of the secret laws of Love Island that operate in the background of this horrible, amazing, horrible show. But on the surface, Love Island looks like a sun-drenched reality dating show where contestants meet cute, fall in love, get dumped in the span of 1 week. But what if I told you there's also a legal minefield just packed with confidentiality clauses, IP rights grabs, and some pretty shocking restrictions on your personal freedom? That's right, Love Island is not just about love, it's also about liability. Welcome to Liability Island. So let's go over the top 10 most shocking laws that govern Love Island. The kind you'd never expect unless you actually read the contract, which, by the way, most people don't. Now, it was sort of genius. Love Island combines several popular reality TV formats and basically distills them down to their essence. The isolation of Survivor, surveillance of Big Brother, and the public participation of American Idol. The premise behind Love Island is simple. A group of attractive, single people live together in a luxury villa where they flirt, couple up, and then compete in challenges. These Islanders are under 24/7 surveillance, isolated from phones, the internet, and the outside world. At launch, Islanders form initial couples based on first impressions, and as the season progresses, recoupling ceremonies regularly occur, where Islanders choose whether to stay with their partner or switch.
Clark.
What? What?
And to amp up the drama, the show adds participants known as bombshells who enter partway through the season to disrupt existing partnerships.
I'm Harrison, I'm 22. American girls love the British accent.
Sometimes viewers use the official Love Island app to vote for their favorite couples and decide who gets kicked off, like when America trolled the cast by voting for Iris to hook up with Jeremiah.
Jeremiah. What?
Islanders must compete in physical and mental challenges, and the winners earn special perks like private dates, nights in the hideaway suite, or time with bombshells. And the season culminates with a grand finale where the live audience votes for their favorite couple. The winning couple receives 2 envelopes. One envelope holds a $100,000 grand prize, the other is empty. The partner who opens the money gets to decide whether to split it with their new soulmate or ditch the other person and keep the money for themselves. So that takes us to rule number 1. You agree to be filmed 24/7, even in the bathroom, and you have basically no privacy rights. Now, you might expect that signing up for a reality show means being filmed a lot, but Love Island takes that to a new level. As Love Island UK Rosie Seabrook explained, Islanders agree to be recorded 24/7, including in private spaces like bedrooms and bathrooms. Millie Court, who won Love Island UK, said there were at least 74 cameras in the villa, including the bathroom. And she says producers put a camera in the bathroom just in case there was a medical emergency. But the contestants have no expectation of privacy because their contract explicitly grants producers the right to record contestants 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including via hidden cameras and microphones. Quote, whilst you remain a contestant on the main show, being filmed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during the key filming period, including by means of hidden cameras and microphones. In all aspects of your life in the villa, we may feature any footage recorded of you in the program in our absolute discretion, and you agree that you have no objection to this. This is called an absolute discretion clause, which means that you grant another party the unrestricted right to make decisions about something without having to justify or explain it. And that takes us to rule number 2. Producers, in their discretion, can make you a villain. Now, many reality contestants have complained about the way that they're presented in the show. Generally speaking, although it's not universal, nobody wants to be given the dreaded villain edit. For example, Love Islander Leah Kateb publicly criticized producers for fabricating a narrative around her relationship with Miguel Harichi.
And like during those check-ins, like they would be like, oh, like Miguel told me that he doesn't see a future with you outside of this, and like, but you know, other people did. And I'm like,
and it was a lie.
yes, because after that, and when I told Miguel, he was like, I literally never said that. And because they were trying to like shove me in a different direction.
Right.
She said that they presented her as a villain in a way that didn't reflect reality. But the contract she signed allows for a villain edit. The producers reserve the right to use any footage of the Islanders, including, quote, actions and opinions of yourself, contestants, and other participants, which may or may not depict you in a positive light, and or which you may deem personal, surprising, embarrassing, offensive, or of an otherwise unfavorable nature. And according to the contract, that kind of editing is, quote, fundamental to the program. This means the producers can shape contestants' stories to maximize drama, even if that spin misrepresents personalities or highlights selective footage. And despite Kiteb's reluctance to return this series, she's signed back up for Love Island Beyond the Villa. Probably because of the money. And if you'd like to learn more about the money that people make on reality shows, there is an extended version of this video that goes into detail, but only on today's sponsor, Nebula, our own streaming site. Now, as you might have noticed, we're producing way more content than ever before, and the insanity of the news cycle right now makes this increasingly difficult to produce content like this on YouTube. So that's why we're doubling down on producing even more original content and exclusives on our homegrown streaming platform, Nebula, the sponsor of this video. In fact, we just made a Nebula exclusive video about the unbelievable criminal self-destruction of DC's former golden boy, Supreme Court attorney Tom Goldstein. It's a story of greed, gambling, porn stars, and tax evasion that we've been working on for the past few months. Or you could check out the full-length version of my recent collaboration with Dr. Mike reacting to The Good Doctor that contains an additional 20 minutes of legal analysis that had to be cut from the YouTube version. And you can also check out our exclusive video on how RFK Jr. can and cannot legally ban vaccines, or exclusive video about unhinged judges that went too far, just to name a few. But in fact, every video we've uploaded to Nebula this year is an extended cut featuring additional analysis and commentary at the end. And you can watch all of our videos on Nebula ad-free and early, because I and your favorite YouTube creators always upload to Nebula first. So if you'd like to support this channel and its mission to demystify the legal miasma that we live in, one way to do so is by signing up for Nebula. People often ask if it helps the channel more to watch on YouTube or Nebula, and the answer is emphatically Nebula. The watch time payouts are bigger, and since my creator friends and I created Nebula ourselves, we don't have to worry about capricious demonetization standards, which has been a huge problem this year on YouTube. So if you'd like to sign up, you can get 40% off your annual subscription, a year of the best content for just $36, or you can even gift that to a friend with a Nebula gift card. Or you can check out the lifetime subscription where for $300, you can get access to Nebula forever. Either way, click on the link below or on screen, or I'll see you in court. That takes us to rule number 3. You're only allowed 2 drinks per night. Now, reality shows often give their cast many opportunities to drink. I, of course, wouldn't know, but others have informed me that alcohol tends to loosen people up, making them more prone to outbursts and overall drama. This is, of course, great for reality TV producers, but a nightmare for lawyers.
You should be proud of yourself. You're spilling your drink. You're spilling your drink. Well, calm down.
And that's why producers impose a 2-drink limit on Love Island USA, and now Love Island UK. And this is all about risk mitigation. Numerous lawsuits have been filed against reality TV producers for encouraging contestants to get drunk. Love is Blind cast members, for instance, alleged that producers withheld food and water, but encouraged them to get drunk on an empty stomach. Caroline Manzo from Real Housewives of New Jersey sued Bravo, alleging producers plied cast members with booze and then encouraged them to sexually harass each other because it's good for ratings. Oh, wait a minute. You're telling me that the Real Housewives cast members got drunk and disorderly?
And they walk out. She's been here. She's out of her mind.
I'm shocked. But by limiting alcohol, Love Island producers can argue that they took reasonable precautions, which is very important if someone ends up suing. Of course, the 2-drink rule raises a lot of follow-up questions. Does the production make drinks available 24/7? Who's responsible for policing the 2-drink rule? The Islanders or the producers? Has the show ever kicked someone out for violating the excessive drinking rule? And most importantly, why in the world would anyone act like this while they're being filmed if they're not drunk?
You don't do that on the first night. You I swear to God,
But generally those issues only come up if someone actually sues the show, which, as we'll talk about, might not actually be a possibility. But that takes us to rule number 4, your mental health and sexual history are fair game. Now, when casting for reality TV, producers have a difficult needle to thread. They need emotionally combustible people who will experience big emotions for the cameras, but they also don't want people who are too fragile or vulnerable for safety reasons and, most importantly, to limit liability. Unfortunately, several former Love Island cast members have discussed their mental health struggles, and 3 people from Love Island UK have died by suicide. Love Island contestant and former Miss Great Britain, Sophie Graden, died in 2018. Before her death, she described being bombarded with cruel messages about her appearance and behavior, especially after being the show's first bisexual contestant. After the CEO of ITV said it was strange to link Graden's death with her appearance on the show, Graden's mother slammed the series as, quote, principally evil. She wrote an open letter revealing that Graydon had asked for mental health support, but Love Island only offered a 10-minute Skype session. In 2019, contestant Mike Thalassides took his own life. Nicknamed Muggy Mike on the show, he became a target of tabloid mockery and online trolling. The press painted him as aggressive and arrogant, and after his appearance, he struggled to adjust to life outside the villa and reportedly faced financial issues and depression. His parents said the series didn't prepare him for sudden fame. And in 2020, the show's UK host, Caroline Flack, also died by suicide. Now, after these deaths, the UK Parliament initiated a full investigation of reality TV in Britain, and producers added a slew of new requirements to the casting process. Now, prospective cast members must undergo full medical and psychological screening, including random drug tests and disclosure of their complete psychological and sexual health history. And here's the form that the cast members must give their physicians, who must describe any mental or physical health treatment the person is undergoing. The physician then has to sign off on their patient's suitability for the show. Quote, "Do you foresee any physical, psychological, or any other reason not to take part in this program?" And contestants are warned explicitly that Love Island, quote, "will test you and put you under pressure in ways that you are unlikely to have faced before." UK regulators also imposed new aftercare requirements on reality TV. Love Island UK contestants receive at least 8 therapy sessions after their time on the show and commit to maintaining contact for 18 months following their departure. The show also expanded its pre-show training to include guidance on social media use, managing fame, and financial literacy. Welfare officers are now present 24/7 on set, and Islanders undergo daily mental health check-ins during filming. But that takes us to rule number 5, you give up your rights to your own image. Now, by signing up for Love Island, you agree to give the show ownership of your name, likeness, voice, and performance forever. The Love Island contract includes a sweeping IP assignment clause. It says, quote, "You hereby assign to us absolutely the entire copyright throughout the universe by all means and in all media, whether now known or hereafter developed for the full period of copyright, all renewals, revivals, reversions, and extensions thereof, and thereafter in so far as possible in perpetuity and to the extent relevant by way of present assignment of future copyright, and all of the rights whatsoever, including those rights known as the rental right and the lending right of the performer's rights in perpetuity." Now, this sweeping IP assignment clause gives the producers of Love Island basically every right they could possibly want for now until the end of time. And this even includes application materials contestants submitted to get on the show. The bottom line is that once you appear on the show, producers can use your footage, name, and voice in future promos, spin-offs, and marketing campaigns. And you can't do anything about it. And that takes us to rule number 6. You get no phones, no internet, and no outside world. Love Island contestants agree to be totally cut off from the outside world.
Time is fake, the date is fake, you have no access to the outside world. You can't Google, you can't watch TV, you can't access your socials, you can't text anybody.
Contestants are not allowed to have access to the internet or to their personal devices. They aren't allowed to look at or post on their own social media accounts while they remain at the villa, and instead a team handles the social media accounts on their behalf. Now, the isolation serves 2 purposes. First, it makes sure that the drama that unfolds inside the villa is completely self-contained and not contaminated by any information about the outside world. And second, it ensures that there is information asymmetry between producers and cast. In a world where the producers know everything and the Islanders know nothing, it's easier for the producers to engineer storyline.
You go a little crazy because, I think my phone said the same date every day. It's some dystopian society in there.
Which is similar to rule number 7, your social media isn't really yours and you better not talk. By agreeing to appear on Love Island, you cede control of your social media to the show. Quote, "You also agree that we shall be entitled to use and incorporate into the program any relevant social media activity created by you, which shall include, without limitation, any Twitter posts, any Instagram posts, and or any other social media posts created by you on such other social media platforms now in existence or hereafter invented, the social media content. You hereby grant us the right to use all or part of any personal material and or social media content and exploit the same as part of the program to the fullest possible extent without any fees or monies becoming due to you or any third party." So anything you've done on social media before can be used on the show without any remuneration. And you also cannot talk about anything on social media or elsewhere without their permission. Quote, "You warrant that all posts, blogs, tweets, messages, or other material you may submit publish on social networking sites such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and any similar sites about your involvement in the program must comply with the Love Island social media guidelines, as well as the confidentiality clauses set out in Clause 10 of this agreement. You undertake to seek our advice if you are in any doubt as to whether or not to sub-publish such material." Now, the confidentiality provision in Clause 10 binds Islanders well beyond their time in the villa. Quote, "You will not, without our prior written consent, either prior, during, or after the end of your contribution, use or knowingly divulge, publish, or make known directly or indirectly to any person or persons, media, multimedia outlet, or internet site, or interactive social media platform, including without limitation, Facebook and Twitter and such other social media sites existing or to be invented whatsoever, any information in connection with this agreement, the program, its production, and exploitation, your contribution, the products, any trade secrets, business plans, etc., or feature wholly or in part derived from or based on any material used used or owned by us or any of our parent, subsidiary, or associated companies, or our or their customers at any time during the continuance of this engagement. Now, the contract is silent about what penalties apply if a person violates the confidentiality agreement. But reality TV producers have sued cast members for violating their NDAs. For example, Love is Blind cast member Renee Posh had agreed to marry Carter Wall before they were permitted to see each other. That's the conceit of the show. Couples get to know each other and become engaged before meeting in person. After the reveal, she found out that he was not a good guy to marry. He was a heavy drinker who couldn't pay his bills and appeared to be homeless. And she alleged that she felt threatened by him. But when she spoke out about her experience, producers sued her for $4 million for breaking her NDA. Which takes us to rule number 8. You don't get to choose where or even who you sleep with. On Love Island, where you sleep isn't really a matter of personal preference. Couples are expected to share a bed, and all the beds are crowded together in one big room.
I'm not being funny, but this is still my bed, so...
Oh no, I was just saying hello!
I literally can't even believe what I'm seeing.
And producers have an expectation that couples will share the same bed while together. However, in 2019, a US producer said there was some wiggle room. Quote, "That is how the house is set up, but if somebody doesn't feel comfortable with that, or if a couple is having a spat, then they don't." But contestants also don't get to choose when they get to go to sleep or when they wake up. According to cast member Arabella Chai, producers won't let them go to bed early, and they all have the same call time in the morning. Which takes us to rule number 9, you have to follow a lot of other rules. The contract provides for a list of unacceptable behavior that can get you kicked out, including sexual advances that aren't returned, bullying, non-consensual touching, racist or homophobic language, distressing sexual conduct, or even behavior producers simply deem inappropriate. And contestants are expected to bring complaints directly to producers, who of course retain discretion over how and whether to act. But that takes us to the Mac Daddy of all of the laws of Love Island. You cannot file a lawsuit. Seriously, you literally cannot. Now, the conditions on Love Island seem pretty extreme and difficult to handle, so you might assume that these shows deal with quite a few lawsuits. Well, actually, they don't. Reality contracts have ironclad arbitration clauses, which require the parties to resolve their disputes through an arbitration process rather than a lawsuit. And as we've discussed on this channel before, the Supreme Court has repeatedly affirmed the enforceability of arbitration clauses in contracts, emphasizing that under the Federal Arbitration Act, the parties must honor agreements to arbitrate unless a legal or equitable reason renders the clause invalid. Now, that being said, despite the bad reputation that arbitrations have, generally speaking, they can vindicate your rights every bit as much as a trial can, and sometimes they end up being much, much cheaper to litigate and happen much, much faster because of the way that our court system is backed up and the time it takes to litigate in state court. But that being said, one huge advantage for the producers is that what happens in arbitration is much easier to keep secret. But contestants who attempt to fight back sometimes argue that these arbitration clauses are unconscionable, which is a legal doctrine that permits a court to void a contract provision that's both procedurally and substantively unfair. But because arbitrations are usually a perfectly valid substitute for lawsuits in court, courts have rarely sided with the reality TV participants in arbitration challenges. For example, in Ledwell versus Ravenel, the Fourth Circuit held that even if the participant had little choice but to sign the contract, the arbitration clause was acceptable because the terms themselves were not shockingly unfair. Dawn Ledwell, who worked as a nanny for cast member Catherine Dennis, appeared on the TV show Southern Charm. She was allegedly assaulted by Dennis's ex, Thomas Ravenel, but the court concluded that the matter could proceed in arbitration. But there have been some exceptions. In Higgins versus Superior Court, a California court invalidated an arbitration clause in a contract signed by 5 recently orphaned teenagers who appeared on Extreme Makeover Home Edition. The siblings were living with the Leomedy family, who parlayed their kindness towards the orphans to get on Extreme Makeover. They got a new home, but a few weeks after the remodel, the family kicked out the Higgins siblings. They argued that the producers didn't tell them that the family could simply evict them whenever they wanted. They claimed the producers offered them a permanent place to live, and the court found both procedural and substantive unconscionability. But even this victory was limited. In a subsequent case on the merits, Higgins versus Disney/ABC, the court concluded that the waiver of tort claims in the same contract was not substantively unconscionable. Now, if you're on a reality TV show and you break your NDA, you're gonna want a good lawyer. Luckily, I know a guy. Now, after I started this channel, every week I'd get hundreds of comments and emails from viewers who are dealing with legal problems. And they'd ask, can you help me find a lawyer? Or how do I know if this attorney is any good? And there's a massive gap in our justice system. It's that people don't know how to find the right lawyer for their specific situation. They're scared, they're overwhelmed, and they end up doing nothing or hiring the first attorney who calls them back. And that really bothered me. So I started to wonder, what if there was a different way? What if we could build a law firm that actually lived up to the values that I talk about on this channel? Transparency, accessibility, and putting clients first instead of chasing billable hours. A firm where you don't need to pay anything up front and your lawyers only get paid if you do, to maximize your opportunity for justice. So a few years ago, I decided to fix that problem. I decided to start my own personal injury law firm. And honestly, it wasn't an easy choice. But I realized I was in this unique position. I had this platform, this community, and the experience. Not to get rich, trust me, there are easier ways to make money than starting a law practice. But we did it because access to justice shouldn't be a luxury. Because finding the right legal representation shouldn't feel like playing Russian roulette with your future. And when when you work with my firm, you're not just getting a lawyer. You're getting a team that understands that behind every case is a real person with real stakes. If we can't represent you or you're in a state where we don't practice, we'll take the time to try to match you with an attorney in my personal network of lawyers. A national network of some of the best lawyers in the country who actually specialize in what you're going through, located right where you are, not just whoever happens to be available. So if you're dealing with a personal injury, a car crash, a data breach, sexual harassment, a social security or workers' comp issue, give us a call at the number on screen or click on the link below. Now, I can't represent everyone that watches this channel. I wish I could, but what I can do is make sure that when you need legal help, you have somewhere to turn to that you can trust. So whether it's me handling your case or the incredible attorneys we partnered with, you'll get the same principles of honesty and education that we bring to every video. And if you're dealing with a legal issue and you're not sure where to start, check out the link in the description. Let's have a conversation about how we can help you find not just a lawyer, but the right lawyer for your situation. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, making sure that when life gets complicated, you don't have to face it alone. Which is why when you need a lawyer, you don't just need a legal team, you need the Eagle team.